Right, today we're going to go through replacing the mixer door module and some of the problems that I've run into. So hopefully you don't run into the same issues that I have. The first thing I want to point out is there's several different controllers. You have controllers that look like this, and you have the manual controllers, which I'll show you in a second. But if you have the controller look like this versus the manual controller, it takes a different mixer module. Didn't realize that, and the parts stores don't realize that either. If you have an automatic or a manual controller, it depends on which module you need. So again, this is the automatic one. That's what it looks like. Okay, and this is the manual switch. Has 3 switches. It doesn't even have the same wiring, by the way. Okay, so here is the mixer module. You're going to find out that this is an automatic one. This is a manual one. Do you see any real difference? Except for where I've cut the little tabs off. You can't tell which ones are manual and which ones are automatic without opening them up. The automatic ones have no real parts in them, and the controller controls it. The manual ones do have a lot of parts in them, but from the outside you can't tell. And the parts stores don't know anything about this. So you need to make sure that you get a manual one or an automatic one for your system. Okay. So the next thing to look at is where it goes. I don't want to tear up the dash too far. So if you notice, it's going through the passenger side airbag hole. Here is the connector to it, which I've checked the wires. And it sits over this thing. The wire will get out of my way. It sits over this thing right here. Here is what it actuates. Can't hardly see it, but it actuates that little bar there. It sits on top. There's no real room in here to move anything. So what I do, and this is the one I had in here, but I have now cut it because, well, I cut it to install it. So basically, everything's held in by this one bolt. The other bolts are part way up and it just slides underneath them. That's the best way I've figured out how to install it without tearing out this whole dash thing. Otherwise, you're going to tear this whole dash out to try to get this out. It's a real pain in the butt. So, what I'm going to do is modify this new one, which is the automatic one, with cutting these tabs off all but this one, which is the one that sticks out right over here. So you can get to that bolt easy. The other bolts are too hard to deal with. Okay, so to show you how this works, here's what the module looks like when it's in. I had a problem with the module, or the heater controller and the module itself. So that was part of my confusion. So the heater module, it has and I'll show you this later on a different one, but there's 2 pieces. There's an electronic part and then there's a vacuum part. The electronic part controls this into the plug to the module. Okay, and what this module does is, here, to show you how it works, if I can get it to set there where you can watch it. So this arm right here will move back and forth, closing and opening that thing. Okay, so if you notice, it says 90 degrees. It's not quite 90. So that means it's trying to be hot. So let's go ahead and turn it. Let's cool this off to, right now I'm in vent, by the way. So 60. Now if you notice, that arm is moving. So now it's actually closing to close the heat off, or trying to. That's what you want to see. You need to see that arm move. If you have the wrong one, it never moves. It just sits there. It never will work. So if you have something wrong with your electronics, which my old one did, it had an electronic issue, and then my old one, though, the vacuum worked fine, so this one had a problem with the vacuum unit. So basically I combined the 2, and now I have one good working unit. You have to be careful. The vacuum parts get sort of gummed up through time, so if you get one out of a junkyard, make sure it works. So let's try this one more time. Turn it back to hot. If you notice, it's moving. That's what you want to see. That's how it actuates. That's how this and this work together. Okay, this is how the module works. Here you can see from the front, same module. This is the old one. Now if you take the top off, there is these, you can see inside the thing where there is some, these are the vacuum actuators, okay? They plug in right here, so you unplug. And this is actually what was, so these vacuum actuators were wrong with the new one that I'd gotten. Basically, these are probably fixable. You actually just put in a little bit of WD-40 or something in them, and then hit them again with electricity. They get sticky, is what happens. But the problem with this one is actually somewhere in electronics. Something in here was not actuating the module. Not sure what it was. I didn't see anything obvious, but this is the one that was originally in the car, and that car has probably been underwater, at least partially, which is probably why it doesn't work right. So, but that's what I'm saying. So there's two parts to it. There's a vacuum side, which has all the vacuum lines, and there's the electric side, which has the electric lines to it. Now you can see the thing in. One thing you want to make sure is that this arm is over the bar. You need to make sure that, hopefully you can see that. And then if you notice, there's a screw here and it's tightening down. Again, so cutting out those edges doesn't really affect it. There's basically one bolt that you're going to tighten down. Let's start with the number 7. Can't really see it. So your last few of them, you do use the ratchet. Alright, hopefully you'll be able to see this. Now let's test it out and see if it works. It's moving the arm like it's supposed to. I hope you can focus on that. Now I'm going to go the other way. There it goes. Now it's moving the other way to the cool side. And I can feel the cool temperature. One more time to show that it works. 60, cold. Now I'm going to turn it up. And it should be moving. And it is. It moved to this side. One thing I always seem to get is scratches on my hand. It's very tight in there and it's very sharp. But we should be done in there. Now I'm going to put everything back together. I'm going to show you how to put it together, and so to take it apart would be exactly opposite. First thing you do is you got to get this vent back together. This vent goes over to the vent that plugs in here. So we got to get this vent pipe back together. So when you take this apart, the easiest way to do it is to chop all these molded pieces, and then what I'm going to do is put it back together with zip ties, which works really well. There's a screw on the back of this back here that you need to take out if you want to take the whole thing out as one piece. It's a real pain, so it's easier to do it this way, I think. Alright, so I'll put this thing in, zip tied it around. It should hold pretty good. Now I'm going to, of course, you clip the ends so they don't got extra junk hanging in here. There. So now it's in, ready to accept everything. Okay, the first thing you want to put in is the vent. The vent actually gets in the way. It just sort of slides right in. Wiggle it till it pops in there. And it'll contact there, and then you put a screw in here. So let's go ahead and do that. And get the thing and screw it in. Make sure it's going the right way. Done. Alright, so the next thing to put in will be the passenger side airbag. Now first you have to plug it in. That's always hard. That plug goes into here, and it doesn't ever want to give you a lot of room on that. And you should have your battery unplugged. Now you slide it in. There's 4 bolts. There's 1, 2, and then there's 3 and 4. I'll show you those in a second. But let's go ahead and screw these in there. The front bolts. Okay. And we'll use the same tool. Zip them in. That started. Get that started. There you go. This is underneath. Should be able to see this, at least one of them. So this will be underneath, and there's 2 holes. There's this one right there, and then there's another one right here. That holds the bottom of the airbag in. This is through the glove compartment hole. And these are 8mm bolts. So you need to change your socket. And of course, once you change your socket, you just zip these bad boys in. Over here. Make sure it's good and tight. Because I'm going to put up this zip here. It does what it wants to fall. Hopefully it won't fall. There you go. And then the airbag's in. Okay, so to put this in, you start by squeezing these little tabs up in there. That'll hold it in while you're working with it. So, slide it like that. Pop that tab. Pop that tab. Now it doesn't come out. Then you want to latch it. Now you can actually screw in the bottom. So under here you have screws right there. Let's see if we can see them. So let's just get this thing going. Get that started. All right. That's a 7. And it's always there you go. And there's another one. I won't show you, but goes in right there. Same thing. So the last thing you do is to put on this trim. So the first thing you got to do is connect this, the clock. Once you do that, it just pops right in together. And you gotta line it up. There's little holes for things to go into the latch. Alright, there's that. And line up all these little holes in the right things. Once you line it up, and make sure these popped on too. There's snaps here, and then all the way down here. And there you go. That's how you replace your mixer door actuator in Crown Vic. This is a 2000 Crown Vic. The other ones are a little different, but very similar. Thanks for watching.